So this video is just going to be quite a quick video on following on from the previous ones about getting started with Jest, and this one's just going to show us how to get started with Jest in TypeScript. So it's just going to be, getting to your very first test. And I'm starting here with an empty folder. I've got a Git repo and that's it, nothing else. So the first thing I'm going to do is initialize the npm project. So that gives me a package.json file. And then the first thing I will do is install TypeScript. So now we have TypeScript, and so the first thing I should probably do is create a ts-config file, and we can do that by leveraging npx and then using the tsc command, which is basically now installed because we've got TypeScript installed. The tsc command is available to us. That's the main command given to us by TypeScript. So we can call that tsc, and I think it's just dash init. So that creates us a ts-config file. Now we don't need to do anything else with that. We can leave that as it is. We also want Jest, so we can do npm install Jest. So now we have Jest. Obviously, if we were doing this kind of properly, we'd want to probably put them as dev dependencies rather than full dependencies, but it doesn't massively matter for the purposes of this. And then what I'm just going to do is create a file for our testing purposes called app.test.ts. And I'm going to create a test file here, like that. And that's just going to say, describe app. And in there I'm just going to put it should test adder. So we're going to do that just like that. And for a start off, I'm just going to put expect 1 plus 1 to equal 2. So the first thing we'll notice here, and as we're getting these kind of the things, it's complaining about kind of things like describe and IntelliJ is actually sort of telling us the issue here, and the issue is that we need the types for Jest. So if we install those, it should kind of fix that for us. So let's do that now. So npm install types Jest, and if we go into package.json, we can see we've got types Jest now. And if we go back here, we can see that the our little problem there has kind of gone away. So app.test.ts. So let's try and run that file now and see what happens. So that's worked. This is quite interesting because we've not actually installed anything fancy to run Jest, but this is a TS file. It's a TypeScript file. So let's try kind of extracting that 1 plus 1 and create a little adder file. So we'll just call it adder, and we'll do it like that. And rather than being 1 plus 1 there, in fact, let's do that. Let's do adder 1 and 1, and let's see what happens now when we try and run this. So now we've got an error because it doesn't like the syntax stuff that's kind of going on there. And it doesn't like this because Jest isn't really designed to work with TypeScript. So as soon as we start bringing in TypeScript specific things like types, then it's going to start complaining. And for this, I believe we need ts-jest. So again, we'll do npm I ts-jest. There are a few ways of doing this, but ts-jest is I think possibly the simplest way that I'm aware of doing it. And so now if we come back to here, again we'll try and run that. We've still got that. We'll notice we've got ts-jest installed here now. So what we're possibly going to have to do is, in fact, let's see what happens if we, in fact, the thing that I think we need to do here is, again, we can possibly run npx ts-jest, and then I think it's something like config init. So that then, and all this is on the installation kind of pages for things like ts-jest. Well, we'll see what ts-jest has done is it's created us this jest config file that tells it how it's going to transform files. And you can see we've got basically a pattern there that it's going to match the files and it's going to use ts-jest for that. So now if we go back to here and we run that, we should see that now it works. And just to check one last thing, just to make sure that it is working exactly as we wanted to, we'll create an app.ts. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take that from there, move it to my app.ts, I'm going to export that, and then from my test I'm going to import it. And then we're going to try running that again and see what happens and just make sure that it still runs. So there we go, that's still running. So that's basically the kind of very, very basics of how to get Jest set up with TypeScript. And just to kind of recap on that, we had a TypeScript test that is just checking that we can add two numbers together. We've created this little adder function that takes two numbers and returns them. We've installed Jest, ts-jest, TypeScript, and the Jest types. And we could actually, if we wanted to, we could also replace that test command there with Jest. And now when we run that, we should see, there you go, that's passed as well, so that also works. We've got a ts-config file for doing the basic TypeScript stuff, and we've got a jest.config.js, which is telling Jest how to handle TypeScript files, and it's just going to push them through the ts-jest kind of pre-processor or whatever we want to call it. And that's it. That's how you get set up with Jest in TypeScript.